I'm Connor Howe, one of the co-founders of Enso. I've been building on Ethereum full-time for the last 8 years. Prior to that, I was in Bitcoin in 2013. And Enso's went through many evolutions to be able to get to where it is as of today. The agenda of today will be giving you a bit of context of the evolution of Enso, so you can get some insight into how we ended up to intents, what are intents, and the Enso network. The Enso network is not being publicized anywhere. There's no blogs, there's no tweets, so you're getting real alpha today. So crypto projects generally have two choices. Either artificially create product market fit by launching a token. Hopefully you survive after 2-3 years. Most don't. Or you go through the fog of unknown. That's what we done with Enso. We started off with a vampire attack. We attacked 6 different protocols, gamified this whole experience, and incentivized it with NFTs. We then launched social trading, where anybody could create a social strategy of monetizing your investments into DeFi and ERC20 tokens. Whilst building this, we found a massive problem, was how do we integrate all of DeFi simply, conveniently, without spending over $500,000 in audits, which we did, only for 15 DeFi protocols. So went back to the drawing board, rebuilt everything from scratch, and had one holistic UI for interacting with all of DeFi. Whilst building this, the architecture underneath, we built in a very nice way that we're able to integrate a new DeFi protocol from inception to production within 30 minutes safely. But users, again, don't use a product unless you give them free money, which doesn't really make sense. But we got a light bulb moment, which was everyone else has, not everyone, but many people have the same problem as us in the V1 of how to integrate all of DeFi into your product. We spoke to many projects and teams, and 2 results came out from this. The question was, how do we get users? 1, launch a token. 2, we have the same issue, so we spun up an API, and within the first week of the API, we got 11 million volume, more accumulated over the 2 years of Enso being around. So that's what you know Enso as of today. It is DeFi middle layer enabling application developers to embed DeFi actions into their products, ranging from lending, borrowing, swapping, LPs, and vaults. So if you're a developer and you're building a wallet, a treasury management tool, whatever it may be, and you want to offer your users DeFi, you don't need to build it all over again, manually one by one. You can simply just call our API for this. And in a matter of 3 years, we went from first year of $8 million to 200K to now 12 billion plus, with 35 plus projects using us in production, all without incentivizing this with a token. Whilst we were building this, we always had user centricity at the forefront. Users want to interact with DeFi without needing to know every single individual complexity of how to interact with that DeFi protocol. So let's say, for example, you want to interact with Beefy that requires an Aura LP, that requires a Balancer LP, that requires 3 individual tokens. With Enso, you can just say, I want that Balancer LP, and we'll abstract all that away for you, or Beefy LP. We call this shortcuts of blockchain. Other people call this intents. For those who don't know what intents are, they're really not that complex. Some people like to make them sound more complex than what they are. But it's saying, I have A, and I want B, C, and D. And I don't care how you get that for me. All of this logic of how to get that is abstracted away for the developer. And B, C, and D could be a token, state, NFT, DeFi position, or any interaction on-chain. You may have heard a lot of hype about intents, and if a user wants to express their intention to go from token A to a DeFi position, you'll go to what people call an intent network. There's many different intent networks, as you can see.
All these intent networks inherently are is a job bulletin board. So you go to LinkedIn Jobs, you go to Fiverr, you go to Glassdoor, Upwork. You say, I have A, which is money, in the context of a job, and I want this task to be done. It's the exact same for an intent network. And underneath, people that fulfill this task or this intent are called solvers. Some people call them resolvers, some people call them fillers, some people call them transmitters. Whatever name somebody creates next is the same thing. I have a task, I have A, and I want B, C, and D, and somebody figures out how to do that for you. But all solvers really are doing, as of today, is swapping from token A to token B. There's only 2 players in this whole ecosystem that are doing non-just token swaps. So for example, if you want to be a solver, you're creating this map of all smart contract interactions. Token A goes into this contract, token B comes out, and you start to graph all of these relationships. To give you a visual representation, this is one of the orders we fulfilled. This is doing 112 different individual transactions to be able to obtain the most optimal route for the user. So you start to see that these are individual points in a map and how all these relationships start to connect with each other. Yeah, I mean, you can see the extent of this, right? It's quite big. I'm not going to explain every one. But again, the ecosystem is not just about tokens. B, C, and D could be a token, a DeFi position, an NFT, a state outcome. It could be an approval, it could be a transfer, it could be a mint, it could be any smart contract interaction on chain. Our vision of this ecosystem is all developer interactions will be intent-based in the future. Defining what you want and not how you should get that makes the most logical sense. As a developer that wants to offer maybe a DeFi product, a DeFi protocol in their product, they need to integrate maybe 4 or 5 different DeFi protocols before they can even offer that to their users. So these developers are turning into a dev shop, an integration house for building every single integration, waiting for audit slots, looking at 4 or 5, 6 months before you can release an MVP of maybe just one DeFi protocol your user asked for. This is where Enso comes in. So we have built the world's first fully decentralized shared network state for building transactable data across all blockchain frameworks. It's its own blockchain. And this word choice of a shared network state, to really just break this down, the world is a map, right? You have many different countries in a world. You have many different cities in a country. And the Enso state is a world of all smart contract interactions across all blockchain frameworks. So in this case, Ethereum can be represented as a country. Each individual smart contract you can see as a city. By having all of this within one place, we can then start understanding the relationships, how they intertwine, how they communicate with each other, not only for tokens, but for any smart contract interaction on chain. Similar to how a train line may work. You want to go from point A to point B. You're going through many different cities to be able to get there. With this, as a full map, we can start understanding the relationships of smart contract interactions. And all of this turns all developer experience into purely outcome-based. If you have all smart contracts, how they intertwine, how to build executable data, of being able to only specify your outcome, developers don't need to care about all the individual nuances for every single smart contract they integrate. Developers can now just say, I want this, instead of each individual step they have to build manually.
So a developer would come to the Enso network, specify their intent. The intent could be, again, an NFT, DeFi position, a token, a state override, and all of the individual parts to be able to obtain that is abstracted away with the Enso network. For example, even approvals that's required as a prerequisite is abstracted. The three different network participants we have is an action provider, a grapher, and a validator. We have competition, but also collaborativeness between network participants. An action provider you can envision is somebody coming along and saying, here's how you interact with a smart contract, conforming to a standard that Enso has built. Similarly, how a developer goes to subgraph, well, the graph, and creates a subgraph that other people consume. Let's say, for example, you want Avi lending. You will come along to the Enso network. Here's how to lend on Avi. This now is a plot inside of the Enso map. The graphers will listen to intent requests. These are purely mathematicians that do not care about where the data is coming from. Mathematicians don't care that it's blockchain data. They just traverse every single action on the Enso map for building the most optimal solution. These graphers will propose their solution of bytecode of how to solve the intent into the mempool on the Cosmos chain. Validators will then simulate this and then find the most optimal solution that was proposed. These validators in the background are running transaction simulation tools. We open sourced our transaction simulation tool about 10 months ago. It's called Temper. So if you are using Tenderly, you can just use this for free. So Enso is this full map of all smart contract interactions. You need people to contribute actions to the network. So a developer, maybe in this room, comes along and says, I want to add this abstraction for the smart contract. If you add this, you get a fee of all solutions that are being built using that action. The question you may have is, what does this turn into domain squatting? Not necessarily, because there's a full economy of token staking on top of the actions that get provided. So if an intent solution comes in and two actions are the same, the one that has the most amount of Enso token staked gets selected for that solution. Why? Intents aren't real without the intent engine. Intents are purely just job bulletin boards. You need people underneath to fulfill these different intents. We cannot build hundreds of thousands of job bulletin boards when there's only really a handful of solvers in the ecosystem that are only doing token swaps as of today. As this ecosystem grows, which it is, with the amount of blockchains, the amount of layer 2s, roll-up as a service, we're turning into this real multi-chain future, and we keep forgetting developers want to integrate all of this. If you integrate one blockchain, you have to build months for this, have all infrastructure for this, and then integrate each smart contract. This does not scale, integrating every single chain manually itself. And we need people to use this technology. If we expect developers to integrate everything manually, it doesn't work. We learned that ourselves the hard way in the version 1 of Enso. Spent over a year integrating 15 DeFi protocols, over $500,000 in audits. If we want people to build products on top of this, they need a convenient way of embedding all blockchain into their applications. So what we're going to build whatever, however, wherever, using Enso. Abstracts all of this away for you to embed all blockchain into your product. The only limitation really is your imagination. Now you don't need to spend months integrating every protocol. Yeah, that's the presentation. If you want to contact me, Connor and Enso, and the email. Still got 5 minutes, you know? We are hiring. So 2 Rust engineers, a Twitter intern, if you like to shitpost, let me know. Developer relations, Cosmos developers, and if you think you are, maybe shouldn't be hiring, you know?
Don't turn your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn your head.
Is it the head? Oh, there you go. But if you think you will be a good fit, and we have if I turn my head or not, just reach out to me. And yeah, thank you. If anyone's got any questions.
Hey, thanks for the talk. Staying in your map analogy, how do you add new cities to your map? Is it a Google Maps or an OpenStreetMap, like new smart contracts? Like staying in your map analogy, how do you add new smart contracts to your protocol?
It's a standardization of different primitives. You come along and plug it in, and you say, here's how you land on Avi. Here's how to execute. So anyone can do it. It's not really deploying a new smart contract. It's just like an interface layer of knowing how to interact with these other smart contracts.
I assume the proofs depend on a certain state of the blockchain. So how do you make sure that the blockchain does not change in a way that the proofs are not valid when the actual execution happens?
So there's no real proofs inside of this. It's more once you call action to not only, I didn't say it in the presentation, but you specify how to execute and also how to validate that execution happens. Then the validators are then going through each individual action that was used, comprised of the solution, and then also validating inside for these individual getters. And they're also so maybe the getter's not there, validators can start adding custom modules for then state override.
I run a bit of infrastructure. I can code. How can I participate in Enso?
So there's three different parts. If you can code, one, you can build smart contract abstractions and just contribute them to the network. I recommend you to start doing it whenever it's live from day one, because all the solutions that are being generated, you will get portions of that fees. So it's kind of like you're front running other people contributing to the network. This I wouldn't recommend graphers if you're a coder, because it's purely mathematicians. And then the third one is a validator. So if you've run any nodes before, just take this Docker image and then just run it.
What about the graph?
Yeah, I wouldn't really say it's more, I wouldn't think that's a coder. It's a purely mathematician. So you're doing like k-shortest paths, you're building custom algos to traverse a whole map. You can do that if you want, but I think validators and action providers probably easier for you. Oh, I've got two now, okay. Double whammy.
Thanks for the presentation. Maybe just one quick thing. So if I wanted to, say I have a DApp and I wanted to offer my users to deposit something, some funds on Aave and do something with yield, I'd had to build an intent, and then I could use that intent, and anyone else could use that same intent.
It's a really good question. Right now, no. So you're basically saying specify and then storing this somewhere so people can reuse what you've requested, right? No. But what you can do as a DAO, you can just call the Enso API and it's fully abstracted away. So you would store, most likely in your backend, hey, I want to go from A to B, and this could be lending on Aave. So you know that call would generate the call data, and then the user would execute themselves. If you do want to make it more funky, you can use Gelato Web3 functions. So you can kind of automate this whole process under these conditions. If APY on Aave is X, call Enso API, get call data, and then also Gelato can execute on behalf of the smart wallet or the smart account.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, what is your business model? How are you charging?
Right now, it's kind of take and spread comparison to other people. So the assumption is not only are we going to have direct developers using us, we're also going to have other intent networks consuming us. So for example, like we're solving CowSwap, Brink users, Aperture, many different intent networks. We can see what our solutions are compared to other people as well inside of this, and then we can take the percentage difference. Moving forward, most likely a fixed fee, variable based upon how much volume is coming through this, whoever's consuming the network. Right now, TBD.
Okay, and then one follow-on question then. You said you can see how good your solutions are compared to other solutions, and that solution you showed was really looking highly complex. I'm just wondering, what kind of improvement are you currently seeing your solutions offer over the best in the market compared to you?
So we're not the best at token swaps, like probably not public knowledge, but now it is. We're more good at DeFi routing. So like we, one with another person, are the only ones doing DeFi routing. So our edge is being able to interact with a new DeFi protocol very quickly. Let's say you want to get into SDAI. Many people try and purchase that on a secondary exchange, but the most optimal route may be swap into X different tokens and then mint SDAI directly. So that's kind of one of our edges.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah, hi. So what part of the solution are centralized, what are off-chain, on-chain? Because if we are talking about competitive routing solutions, for example, like Uniswap X or CowSwap or solvers, so they have different type of centralization inside the system.
Are you asking about them or the answer?
No, I'm asking about you. So as I understand, these interfaces, they are not on the blockchain, they are on the backend or on the API levels. So what parts are on the backend, what parts are on the off-chain, you know?
So as of today, it's fully centralized. Once the network goes live, it will be the validators first, and then over time will be individual graphers. The graphers will be running their own proprietary algos off-chain. They won't be putting that on-chain. They'll be putting the solutions generated from their algos on-chain. Then the action providers, that's put on-chain. So people saying, here's how to interact with a protocol. Over time, it'll be individual RPC requests that are being made to the network itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
How far do you abstract away the intent? So, for example, if I want to take on, let's say I have $1,000 in Ethereum and I want to take on 1.1 leverage on that Ethereum, and like I do that through lending markets, do I need to specify in my intent that I want to do this on Aave or Maker, or can you kind of abstract that away completely?
Yeah, so I think people will build tools like that on top, and it will turn into 3 different types of intents. Explicit, i.e., I want to do my leverage on that protocol. That's like explicit. Semi-explicit is I want to obtain this leverage. But you're creating these boundaries that solvers can then still use. So maybe it could be an Aave, maybe it could be a Maker, maybe it could be GMX, whatever it may be. And then the third one is not really explicit at all. And it would be a AI execution bot that's learned from your previous behavior or what you would do in these market conditions.
I want more money is the intent.
Really though? Really? Thank you.